fancy new shocks. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to episode 4 on the Project IJ. Now, since the last time you saw this, we've made some more progress yet again. Last time you saw it, we were building the interior cage, exterior, whatever it is, the roll cage for this thing. Went through that step-by-step process of how I set these up so that you can easily weld them at home if you have the desire to build your own fabricated cage. I'm really happy with how this turned out. And as we were going, I knew I had a few more fab projects that I wanted to do, and I've made some notable progress on those. Now, also today, I want to go over some new shocks that we're going to put on here. These were just released today when I'm filming this, but these are the new Eibach licensed shocks from Vanquish Products. These are a similar version of the S8E shock, but with some notable changes, and they're kind of like a full spec, full option part coming with the machined caps, machined collars, the whole deal. So some cool features on that. We'll go over that in a moment, but before that, the fab side that we've done so far. Now, previously when you saw this, this had these 3D printed sliders on them. These are the sliders that you see in the download set when you get the Project IJ files from Imagine. And they look good. I like the style of them, but I don't love the 3D printed tube type thing for the exterior of a truck that I want to drive pretty hard. So what I wanted to do instead was replace this with a realistic, an actual fabricated slider. And you will see that the new additions are already on the chassis. I did these in a similar style to how I did the roll cage, where I designed up a 3D printed fixture, and then I combined that with some laser cut parts from Send Cut Send, as well as some tubing, just like the roll cage, that I bent and fit into that fixture to fit here and exactly fit and replicate what I was after. And it turned out great. Now, you can see on the top there, the holes along there, kind of replicating a similar style to what the 3D printed one had with the holes along the top. Now, of course, size and number, distance, all that varies, but the overall style of the insert with the drilled holes maintains. So the lower portion of this now is steel with the steel tube and then that filler plate across the top. And it went all together so easily. Building these things took me maybe 15 minutes per side. Couldn't be happier with how that came out. So like I said, both sides are done. You can see them there. Pretty stoked on that side of things. A couple of the other things that I've been working on. Front bumper. As you can see, I have a front bumper installed on here now, and this is a 3D printed one, but I won't be running a 3D printed bumper. Like the other areas, I want steel fabricated options. And what this one here is, while it is, printed currently, I have gone and I've designed a bumper set that I'm going to be able to, surprise, get all laser cut from Send Cut Send. And I've got an idea for a new style that I want to use as far as fabricating with the jigs go, to minimize the amount of heat and warping that could happen with the fixtures. For something like this, it can be way harder because everything's very tight. So the heat is going to soak into fixtures way faster if it is as, that compact all at once. So the idea that I've got in mind, I think, is going to work out. I need to finalize the design of that, though, and then I'll be able to move forward. So I need to get all of that done, fixtures designed, sent off to Send Cut Send, and then back before I can 100% be sure of it. But I'm like 99% positive that this idea is going to work really well. I'm usually right on that side of things, usually. So now, to facilitate this, though, I ended up cutting the front of the VS4-10 chassis off. And that allows me to keep this bumper sucked way more into this. So it's significantly behind the front of the tire. So there is no, there's nothing impeding the front as far as my approach angle goes. And I think it's going to work really well. It's going to tie all the way back into the chassis. It's going to allow me some liberties to make some progress in that way. So I'm looking forward to getting these parts done and to send, cut, send. I'm close, pretty close. Hopefully I can get that finished up today. The other thing on the design side that I've been working on is in the rear, and you don't see any of that progress yet. I have been working towards redesigning these rear two pieces as well as the part that sits underneath of the seats. Under the hood looks like a ton of room, but you run out of space pretty quickly in these trucks once you start packing everything in. And a place to put a battery comfortably is just like, I don't love how it's going to sit. So what I'm going to prioritize is I'm going to prioritize getting the ESC and receiver, light controller, any of that stuff moved up front. But from there, I want to move the battery to the rear. So I'm redesigning the rear areas so that I can have a modular section that I can have easy access to, and I can put my battery in to the back. It's going to be similar to how I did it on the Rockabilly. So that meant redesigning these rear pieces as well as the rear cross brace that is currently between the frame rails and the back, and also integrates those rear shock towers. It's all going to change. Obviously, I've taken this project much further than I initially planned. We're going to end up redesigning a lot of things, and that's fine because the base of this project is so much fun. To take the Project IJ body set and drop it onto a VS4-10 is rewarding in its own way. You can get it, and then you've just got this truck that is super cool. But it's like another kit that you can have. It just, everything fits, and from there, you can change it however you want. It's such a fun build, and I had way more fun with it than I expected, as you can tell by how this has continued to snowball. Now, in the last video that I talked about the fabrication of the cage, I talked about the body armor and things like that. I had that uploaded, and I ended up taking it down, making some modifications, and getting it re-uploaded. So the first version that I put up there was made out of 1mm aluminum, and I got the Send Cut Send parts back, and that's actually what you see here. These are all the Send Cut Send 1mm thick body armor. And the hardest part was bending this rear quarter around. It took a little bit of work. Works best if you put it in like a vise with some soft jaws and kind of got the bends to how it should be. But that's a little bit more difficult than I thought maybe everybody would be happy with. So I took it down and I reduced it to some .063 aluminum, which Send Cut Send has available, but in a different alloy. So rather than the 5052, I think we're going to like 2024 alloy aluminum, which is strong. And it's got some different bending characteristics, but the thinner, gauge should make it easier to bend. I am leaving the roof in the 1mm thick 5052 though, just because a thicker, stronger roof panel, I think it'll look good for longer if you're really driving your car. And that's what I have on here now. This is that 1mm thick, and it fits perfectly, looks really good, and I'm happy with it. A little bit of fingerprints on it now, but it's because I keep fondling my truck. That's kind of where we're at. I do still have more progress on the interior to make. I'm going to replace the base that these seats sit on. I'm going to get rid of these little holes here, and I'm going to kind of make a structure that looks a little bit more fabricated and, realistic, I think. So that's how that is going. Let's talk about the new Eibach shocks that we're dropping on here. Now, currently, this thing is riding on 80mm shocks because this was a VS4-10 Portal Builder's Kit, which uses 80mm. And that means that, I'm all the way down right now. There's no up travel. Currently, this is at full bump. And it's got decent flex, but not a ton. I feel like it could have more. Even with the H10s, it's just not quite enough. So while I love to keep rigs low, I'm going to go with the 90s. It'll make this thing set a little bit taller. Probably not quite that tall. Probably right about in there. And that, I think, is going to be a better mix of actual suspension clearance and tolerances all around on this. So I'm fine with that. The new shocks come in a new style of packaging, kind of co-branding the Eibach and the Vanquish side of things. They've got some instructions on the back and whatnot, but pretty standard as far as like that type of packaging that you've probably seen before. Now, these new shocks are modeled after Eibach's latest release of their coilovers, and some of those details have been applied into like the collar, the spring load collar or preload collar. It's drilled in a similar fashion to how the full-size ones are, as well as the lower cartridge is now a screw-on style versus the E-clip style or C-clip style that the original S8Es are. So this has a screw-on style now, it goes in there, and it's machined with some fine details, also mimicking what Eibach has done on their new coilovers. Internally, you're also going to find some differences. Inside of this now, the shock shaft doesn't use the E-clips on top and bottom of the piston. Now you've got a new piston in there, and it's a screw-on style design. So it uses a small screw that goes down into the top of the shock shaft with a washer, and that's how that is retained. You'll also notice that the piston inside there is a machined piston as well. The cap style, still pretty much the same with the bleeder screw that screws into it there. So you can fill it with oil, compress it, make sure that it's not going to hydrolock, and then put that screw in while you've got everything held tight. They come fully assembled, so you don't have to build them as well. Bit of a bonus. The card is a folded piece. So if you look in between the two layers there, inside of those layers, you're gonna find a sticker sheet, which you will just overlook if you don't, like actually reach in there. And on there, there's a couple at the top there that are some Eibach wraps that'll actually go around the shock body and add some detail closer to the full size if you like. And then there's just some Eibach, 6 different Eibach logos and 4 different Vanquish sticker logos, in case you like stickers. Some people are huge on stickers. I'm not so much. I'm gonna get these filled with oil. I think I'm gonna put some heavy oil in these, probably somewhere between 60 and 80. Kind of feel it out. This truck's getting heavy, It's still lighter than some that I've seen, many that I've seen, but I do wanna plan for that. So probably go on the heavier side. Anyway, let's get these things filled up and get them on the truck. Make sure you remove the bleeder screw before you get everything filled and start to do your testing. After you fill it up, wipe any excess oil that comes out of the bleeder screw at the top, keep it compressed, and then reinstall your bleeder screw. Feels really good. You get the other ones filled up and installed on the truck. Shocks are filled, installed on the truck. Immediately, obviously it gets a ton more flex. Now, going for a ton of flex isn't something that I'm normally after, but an adequate amount is usually about the height of a single tire. And that's pretty close to what I've got here. So now I'm gonna be happy with that. It did of course raise the ride height there, but it didn't create so much gap back here that it seems too tall. So flexing around, and it's still sitting very nice. I'm happy overall with going with the 90 millimeters on this. And I think that it's clearing up some areas where I was having some interference. For example, since I'm using an H10 axle on here, this upper link mounts to the outside of the chassis. And with the 80 millimeter shocks, that link was starting to touch the 3D printed base design that he's got for mounting the body. And with the 90, it still does touch, but only when you're doing total compression of both sides, and it's right towards the end. So it doesn't immediately need to be fixed. I can run those and be just fine. Because if you're just flexing one side, it doesn't have that. Anyway, suspension is in much better shape. I have a lot of things left on my list for this still. The interior, obviously. One thing that I did make here just the other day is another one of these mini operator shifters from like Motion Raceworks. It's a miniature version of it. And I machined this on my Makera Z1, which is a miniature version of the Makera Carvera Air that I did a video on earlier this year. So I made another one of these, and I'll incorporate this into the console design that I put into this car. So it's functional. It actually moves forward and backwards, does all that. And I still have to do things like print the other external hinges that go on in places to cover up everything. A couple of other details that I do think that I want to tackle. The front shock towers, I swapped back to the VS4-10 ones and I like those much better, but I am thinking that some fabricated shock towers would be even better. So I think that I'm probably going to try and fabricate up a front shock tower setup with some like laser cut and, details up there to make it look really good. And depending on how things go, I may want to do an engine cover up here, a scale engine cover that just kind of will incorporate into everything. That way when you open the hood, you don't just see a mess of wires and all that stuff. It'll just look more complete, and I feel because of that, it'll look much better. I do believe that I am going to run a spare tire, and I need to figure out what I want to do for the rear bumper still. That'll come later. I'm less worried about the rear bumper than the front bumper, but I am going to have to worry about it at least a little bit here before too long. Now, like the cage, I will have these sliders available for you guys to purchase the laser cut files from Send Cut Send and the 3D printable fixturing from my website. Those will be up before too long. I've already got them submitted to Send Cut Send. They may be up Friday, otherwise it'll likely be early next week. The sliders were really easy to fabricate, and I think they made a huge visual difference compared to 3D printed ones. I do want to get this truck running soon, so I do need to get the ESC and receiver, all that stuff in place where it's going to be before too long. I keep tinkering without getting there. Although the tinkering is still my favorite part of this. So let me know what you guys think about the progress on the IJ and what you think we should tackle next. I mean, there's lots of opportunities to go still. I think that I still like the color. There was a time when I was like, nah, I'm over this color, but now I'm back. Now I like it again, and I'm pretty happy. The body armor, probably just gonna leave it aluminum. I think I'm just gonna leave it raw. I think that looks best. You scuff it, you scratch it, whatever, it still just looked like scratched aluminum at that point, and I'm good with that as well. Further and further down the road, more and more custom every day. I love it. Let me know what you guys think though. Drop your comments down below. I'll try and reply to as many of those as I can. But that is going to do it for this episode of this quick little IJ project. If you're looking forward to more, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, hit the notification bell. Also, channel membership is available. Channel members just help support the channel a little bit extra. You get access to videos sooner. You also get special videos that are made just for channel members, kind of like behind the scenes stuff, just a little bit less formal, kind of more candid, talk off the cuff. Don't have to worry about editing as much. So if you like more content, that is available. And there's information down on the description on that topic. But that is going to do it for this one. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.